everyone, ashleyjenae here. Love, dating, life, femininity, all the things coach. And I wanted to film this video to answer a question/comment that I received in my Facebook group today. And the comment was regarding a post I had made where I was basically encouraging women to dress how they want to be treated and putting it out there, which I'm sure is nothing new, that if you lead with your body, if you lead with your sexuality or, anything in that regard, then you are likely to get less respect. You may get attention. You may even get chased. But is it the kind of attention and the kind of pursuit that you truly want? Is it them pursuing you, or is it them pursuing your body and what they can get from your body? So that's what the post was about. And I received a comment from one of my members, and she said that she agrees, but she also struggles with the messaging that women get about needing to change themselves for relationships, for the world, and all of that. And shouldn't it be that the right person is just going to love you for you? So I actually hear different versions of this same sentiment quite a bit, and my views on it are different. So my perspective is that we all judge. We judge people, we judge situations, we judge opportunities based on the information that's available to us. So given that we know out in the world, men are going to judge us, employers are going to judge us, people on the street, potential clients, customers, friends, family, all of that, you want to be mindful of the perception that you are responsible for presenting about yourself into the world. So in this instance, me saying be mindful of how you're dressing and dress how you want to be treated is not telling a woman to change herself, because how you dress is not who you are. It's not asking you to change the essence of your heart or your values, your morals. It's not asking you to have a different spiritual guidance source or belief system or anything that is at the core of who you are. It's asking you to be mindful of the attire you wear. And we actually are in situations where we have to think about that quite a bit, because unless you work in an environment that encourages you to dress in more provocative or revealing clothing at your job, you have to wear business casual, or you have to wear a uniform, or whatever the case is. If you go to court, there's certain clothing you cannot wear. If you get on an airplane, there's certain clothing that you cannot board wearing. Like, you can't get on the airplane in a bikini. And I don't think that that is asking you to be a different person so much as it is encouraging you to be mindful of your surroundings, and also the fact that you wearing what you want doesn't just impact you when you walk outside of your home. Other people are looking at you. There are children around. There are men around. There are other women around. And is this something that they need to be exposed to just because you like it? So I believe with how we dress, we have a lot of freedom of expression when it comes to, picking different items that we feel good in. I've become concerned if a woman only feels good in super revealing clothing. And even then, there are still outfits that are like skin tight, but don't show certain parts of your body, or that are, generally a little bit more revealing clothing that we would look at and say, okay, that's something you would wear to a club, or, that's maybe like something you'd wear to a pool party, or, we know that type of clothing is typically seen in like the nightlife, or if you're trying to be sexy. And that clothing is actually permitted in a lot of different venues, but not every venue. But you have to keep in mind, you know, if I walk outside and I'm wearing a policewoman uniform and people think I'm a police officer, they're not incorrectly judging me. They are going based on what I put out there. So if I'm dressed in attire that you typically see a video girl, a stripper, somebody who is very open sexually and likes to show their body off, well, you're going to attract people who are with that. You're going to attract people and men who are like, okay, you like to show it off. I want to see it. I want to see more. I want to touch it because you seem to be with it. You're advertising that. That's what you're leading with. So those are the responses you get. And this is in no way like victim blaming or shaming or making it women's fault when they get assaulted. It is, however, saying that some of these instances are not completely out of left field when you get a man approaching you in a sexually motivated manner and you're dressed a certain way. And we know, you know, we can argue all day long that, you know, you should be able to wear what you want and it doesn't matter and I don't care what other people think. You say that until there's a job at stake, or there's an apartment at stake, or you're not allowed to walk into your child's Christmas program because, you know, you're wearing a teeny tiny Mrs. Claus outfit that's not appropriate for the setting, or you can't get into a certain restaurant because you're not in alignment with the dress code. They say no jeans, no sneakers. It's upscale attire only, and you're not dressed for the occasion. So you do care what people think. You just don't want to have to change anything about what you want to do in this moment. And what I'm inviting you to do, because at the end of the day, you do make your own choices. You don't have to conform with anything I'm saying or anything that society at large is saying, or anybody for that matter. You get to make your own choices. But why I'm giving advice like this is look at the outcome that you want to achieve. Look at the results that you've been getting with what you're currently doing and ask yourself, am I happy with those? Am I getting the outcomes I desire currently? And if not, then just your logic would tell you you probably need to look at your approach and make some adjustments. So saying to adjust how you dress or your appearance in terms of being more attractive or looking more professional or more polished, or wearing clothes that are more flattering, less revealing. Even things like losing weight or getting a nice haircut that flatters the shape of your face, or lightening it up so that you can have a more radiant, bright appearance. Like, all of these are suggestions that are aimed toward ideally helping you feel good and helping you get a better response, better feedback from the world that you are moving about in. You know, unless you are living off the grid and you're never interacting with people, the image you present does matter. What people think of you does matter. And we're not talking about changing who you are so that everyone likes you. That's never going to happen. But what we're talking about is knowing the image and the type of person that you want to present yourself to be, and asking, is my clothing, is my behavior, is my attitude, is how I talk, and how I am showing up in the world in alignment with that? So if I'm a professional, I can walk around in like gothic clothing all day long, but I have to be aware that what I'm presenting is not giving that professional vibe. So if people don't perceive me as a professional, I can't be mad at them and say, oh, they're just judging me. You know, they should just love me for how I am and just accept whatever I'm giving. Well, that's not how the world works. We're speaking in ideal terms at that point, that people can just look at you and discern your heart and discern the type of person you are, or know that you are smart or professional, or that you're a lawyer, or that you have a college degree, or that you are respectable, or that you're married and a mother, or whatever the case is, just by looking at you. And that's not the case. So do you want to be presenting an image that leads to misconceptions about you. You know, here's an example. If you have someone who's walking down the street, and say it's a man and his appearance looks very disheveled, he is dirty, he has holes in his clothes, he has no shoes on, and he looks like he hasn't bathed in a long time, and he's just giving very much that homeless vibe, and if not homeless, then at the minimum that he lives in poverty. So considering how he looks, most people would look at him and assume, okay, he's probably homeless, or he needs money, he needs help, you know, he's not in a good position in life because of how he's looking. He could be a millionaire. We could all be wrong. He could be, you know, someone who's very well off, who lives in a mansion. He just walks outside looking like that every day. And if you found out that you were wrong, that he's not homeless, that he drives a expensive car and lives in a mansion and has millions of dollars in the bank, your first question that you would ask is, well, why is he dressed like that? Why is he not clean? Why is he wearing clothes that are torn and tattered and not in good repair? Why is he doing that? It doesn't make sense. If you have the means for better, why would you choose to walk outside like that? You might think, you know, does he have a drug problem? Does he have mental illness? Like, what's the reason why you would wear that type of clothing, and why you would present yourself to the world in such a manner that's not in alignment with who you really are and what you have? It's the same thing with the clothing that women choose to wear, and men. You know, I'm not just talking about women only, but I find when women bring up what advice is given to men, it's really a deflection. It's looking in the next lane instead of focusing on your own. So it's really not women's business, the advice that's given to men, the same way it's not men's business, the advice that's given to women. It's not for you. So you don't need to worry about what the men's mentors and coaches and guides and the messaging that men are getting, because we don't have any impact on that. All we have an impact on is how we present ourselves, what our standards are, how we move about in the world. So I want to encourage women to take the advice that's given to them without saying, well, it's not fair. The men aren't told they should dress differently and behave differently. They actually are. Men are given a very unique type of messaging for how they achieve their significance and success in the world. A lot of it has to do with their ability to provide. So the money that they earn, the status that they hold, at a certain level, men are encouraged to dress better, meaning putting away the basketball shorts and the clothing that's more casual. Okay, sorry about that. I got a call, so I had to pause. So we are continuing part 2 of my previous video. So I was talking about the man who, you know, is homeless looking but not homeless. It's the same thing. You know, if you don't want to be perceived as a woman who is sexually loose or down for whatever, or you know, more promiscuous, then be mindful of how you're dressing. You know, you don't get to control the response that the world gives you. You do need to take into account your part in things. And yes, you could have on a turtleneck and sweatpants, and a man could still approach you sexually motivated or whatever. And you know what? That's going to happen. There's no way to 100% avoid that. Even women who most of the world would consider unattractive can find a man who will sleep with them or want to sleep with them. It's kind of human nature. You know, men see women, women see men. They want to mate. They want to be sexual. They are drawn to your physical appearance, or, you know, whatever the case is. That's going to happen. There's no way to avoid that. But you can have some type of control or influence on the type of attention you receive as a majority by looking at how you present yourself, how you're acting in public, how you're dressed, your behavior, you know, all of that plays a role, you know. And we have so many resources with the internet these days. We know what professional attire looks like. We know about suits. We know about dresses and heels. We know about the type of clothing that people wear who are usually a certain type of person. You know, we know that that orange vest with the fluorescent light thingies on it is what construction workers wear. So if we see a man with that vest on, we're gonna assume, oh, you probably do construction. We could be completely wrong, but we're making an assumption based on what he has on. If we see somebody with the prison jumpsuit on, we're gonna assume, oh, you're an inmate, you know, because I'm looking at how you're dressed, how you're presenting yourself, and I'm assuming that that is what you are based on what I see. And the same thing happens out in the world. So I don't look at encouraging women to be mindful of their dress and making sure it's in alignment with who they really are and how they want to be perceived and treated as asking them to change. I think the advice that we get in the world today is largely aimed at how can we be more in alignment with what we want and how can we be better. So I'm a person who believes we can always continually grow, continually get better, continually become more of the person that we want to be, and we have never arrived. So I never look at advice that I receive about sharpening my mindset or using my intuition or delving more into my femininity, learning how to vet men, learning how to move about in professional settings or how to move in business, how to get more educated and sharpen my skill sets, how to move socially. I don't look at any of that type of advice as telling me to change. It is telling me the blueprint for how to get what it is I want. And if I have the belief that I should be able to get what I want by staying how I am, I feel like that's a foolish mindset, because everything requires something of you. Now, if you are the type of person who you don't have to ever do anything and you get everything, I guess lucky you, but a majority of people, that's not the case. Majority of people, they do have to do certain things. They have to follow certain steps. They have to be a little bit more strategic to get what it is they want. You know, if you want to get into school, if you want to get hired with a certain employer, if you want to get a house in the neighborhood that you want to live in, all of that takes some forethought and some planning and making certain moves that you may not have made before you got the information you have. But now that you have the information, you act on it and you adjust, you recalibrate, because you don't want to stay living in the 1-bedroom apartment in the hood. You want to get to a better place because you don't want to stay 100 pounds overweight. So you do have to change your eating habits and your exercise habits. Like, everything in life requires you to adjust and realign with what it is you say you want. And I look at relationships as no different. You know, if how you are now is working for you, and by working for you, I mean you're happy with your results, then maybe you don't need to change anything. Maybe you're good in that department. Now, I think that being good is relative for the current moment. So what's working today may not be working in 5 years. And I think we all naturally change just with time. So I would say you could be in a season right now where you're good, but that doesn't mean that you sit back and throw your feet up and that you never need to work on yourself, or that you don't need to continually strive to be the best person that you can be, the best version of yourself that you can be. I think that's always necessary. But if you're not getting the results you want, if you haven't met men of the caliber that you desire to date or marry or be with, if you're not getting responses from men that are like the responses you desire, meaning if you want a man who's a provider, who opens doors, who treats you like a lady, who is a gentleman, who has your back and you don't have to worry about anything, he just showers you with devotion and protection and provision, then yes, there is going to be something required of you. And if you want to sit back and think you don't need to do anything, that the right person is just going to come along and do that, you might find yourself waiting for a really long time, because you might not be in alignment with what it would take to get that kind of man. The same way, you know, if you need to have a certain amount of money or a certain credit score and a certain amount of influence to move into a specific neighborhood, you're not just going to sit and say, oh, well, the right opportunity will come along and I won't have to do anything. Chances are your opportunity is already in front of you, and you're being asked to step up. You're being asked to come up higher. You're being asked to make the changes, the adjustments, take the steps that you need to in order to have this. It's an opportunity, and you can choose to accept or decline it, but thinking that you shouldn't have to do anything to get something that's greater than what you currently have, I don't think is a wise mindset. So I don't look at anything I do as encouraging or pushing women to change in a negative way. It's really reverse engineering the outcomes that they say they want. You know, there are women who the advice I give or the things that I share don't resonate with them, or, you know, they're in happy relationships, they don't feel like the advice applies. It's just not, you know, something that they need at this point in their life, and those aren't the women I'm talking to. I'm talking to women who do want to have better outcomes. They do want to attract a different, better caliber of man. They do want to have a more robust and exciting love life with options. They want to have several men to choose from who want to treat them like queens and commit to them and, you know, build a beautiful life with them. And the advice I give is helping them get into alignment with the version of themselves that they need to be in order for that to happen. And it's not to say everybody needs a coach, because lots of people have gotten into happy marriages without coaches. But if you're not experiencing that currently, and there's an opportunity in front of you to take advice from someone who's done it, if there's an opportunity in front of you to gain some wisdom from someone else who's already walked that path and can tell you a shortcut to take and can tell you, you know, what will help you save yourself time and not have to bump your own head and learn the hard way on certain things, I feel like it's wise to heed that advice. I feel like it's wise to go ahead and get that mentorship, get that guidance, and save yourself time, because time is a very valuable resource. You know, it's priceless. And I would prefer to trade money and energy to save myself time, to save myself heartache and making unnecessary mistakes, and to get where I want to be, to have the life I want to have faster. That's something that I personally value, and that's why I am so in love with mentorship and coaching, because it is literally what I consider the cheat code to life. Instead of figuring things out on my own and doing things the hard way, I can work with someone who can give me the shortcut, who can tell me the best way to go about doing things. And of course, you don't have to take 100% of their advice, but I like to tell, you know, any potential client or client I'm working with, like, you want to use your best judgment and your discernment on who you choose to work with. And if you select a coach, you select a mentor, and you decide to invest in working with them, make sure it's someone who you trust. Make sure it's someone who you believe can get you from point A to point Z, and really submit yourself to the process. Don't try to use your own understanding and your own vantage point to determine what needs to be done and what's necessary and what's not. Like, submit yourself to the process. Trust the process. Trust your coach. Of course, if something is completely out of alignment with your integrity or your morals or your character, then of course you want to make sure that you use your best judgment there and don't do anything that's going to put you in a precarious position. But other than that, like, they are guiding you from a point that is higher or further along down the path than you are. And they know the pitfalls, they know the steps that you need to take in order to get where you want to be, and they're guiding you there. You haven't made it there, so you don't know what the path looks like. You don't know 100% what you're supposed to do, because if you did, you would have done it. And sometimes you know, but you just don't have the accountability with yourself or the ability to motivate yourself to do what you need to do. And that's another function that a coach can serve, is that accountability, is pushing you to your limits, pushing you outside of your comfort zone, and holding you accountable to the goals that you set for yourself. But either way, submit yourself to the process and don't look at it as a negative. Like, well, why do I have to change? Because the version of yourself that you are now is not achieving or getting the results that you want. And if you want the life, you want the success, you want the relationship, you want the career, you want the money, you want whatever it is that you are pursuing, and you're not getting it with what you're currently doing, then logic says you need to regroup and adjust. You need to recalibrate. So do that if it's what you really want. If you find yourself not wanting to do it, questioning the process, pushing back, having a lot of resistance pop up, look at whether that is a form of self-sabotage. Look at whether or not this is really about you not thinking that it will work so much as you being afraid of change, you being afraid of no longer being maybe the victim, no longer being confused, no longer being the person that you've been for so long. But also understanding that that next level life is going to require a next level version of you. So you are going to disassociate with some parts of your lifestyle, or maybe even, your personality or habits that you had previously that you cannot take with you where you're going. And that's okay. We're not meant to stay the same in every aspect for our entire lives. It just means you're ready to go to the next level, and you know that the next level is going to require something different of you, and you're willing to align with that. So this video ended up being a lot longer than I was expecting, but I hope I answered the question. I hope that my perspective has been clearly articulated, so you all know exactly why I feel the way I feel about this and why I give the type of advice I give. And it's not to come down on women or make them feel like they have to do all the work. There's a lot of work that men have to do as well, and that's something I was touching on in the previous video. Men are told they need to present themselves differently in terms of their appearance, their behavior, their financial decisions. There's a lot. It's basically the same thing women are told, but just more in alignment with what a man's role is in society and in a family. And it's not our business what men are being told. We need to focus on what we're being told and doing that, and let ourselves elevate so that we can attract and be amongst men who are working on themselves as well. That's what you want to be able to do, is discern a man who's working on himself, who is striving to be the best version of himself, and you two get together and you create an amazing life. Don't worry about the men who are not changing, who are not elevating, who are not presenting the type of vibe or energy or treatment that you want, desire, and deserve. Don't focus on them. Those aren't your men. That's not your tribe. That's not your destiny. There are men who are in alignment with where you are now, and there are men who are in alignment with the woman you're working to become. So focus on those men and position yourself to attract them, and you will. So I hope this was helpful. I have to go. I have an appointment, but I will talk to you all later. Much love. And if you have any questions, please post them in the group or send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer them. I love you all. And if I don't talk to you before the new year, have a very happy, safe, amazing, prosperous, abundant, all the good things new year. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.